Hello there, this is Dabu with the first in a series of Planetside 2 videos focusing on improving your effectiveness with the max unit. This video is intended for newer players to the game, but includes some concepts and ideas that even veteran players might find helpful. A quick overview of max basics for newer players. The max is a heavy, infantry-sized unit which dual-wields its weapons, one on each arm, and can fire these weapons independently from each other, and can field a wide variety of armament for attacks on all unit types in the game. It moves more slowly than other infantry classes, although it can, also slowly, accelerate into a run, which is not as fast as other infantry sprint speeds, but pretty close. All factions can utilize a short-term burst of speed called Charge, which comes with a cooldown that can be reduced through certification, or an Empire-specific max ability, which we'll discuss later. Your starting weapons are an anti-infantry gun on the right arm and a selection of either anti-vehicular or anti-aircraft on the left arm. You used to be able to fill out a survey and gain an extra weapon upon starting a new character, but that's been replaced with a 100 cert reward for each of the first 15 battle ranks, which is in my opinion more useful for newer players. The max unit is unique in Planetside 2 in that it's not exactly infantry, as it doesn't have regenerating shields or medic restorable health, and it's not exactly a vehicle because you can't exit the armor without changing classes, and it takes extra damage from headshots. This hybrid status confers a number of gameplay strengths and weaknesses, which a good max player will exploit to be more effective on the battlefield. Now, the number one thing I want to impress upon you is that the max is not an unstoppable killing machine. There's a lot of discussion on the forums and Reddit about this, but the fact is, maxes, while tougher than other infantry, still fall relatively quickly to either concentrated small arms fire or explosives like C4. As such, a skilled heavy assault, light assault, or even a properly equipped medic or engineer stands a better than 50-50 chance of killing a mediocre or bad max player one-on-one. Keep in mind, that's the nanite resource equivalent of a same skilled player killing a main battle tank or a liberator one-on-one. And in real gameplay, where you usually find several enemies in a single area at the same time, focused rifle fire will drop a max in only a few seconds. In addition, maxes make for nice, big, high-reward targets, and so they tend to attract more than their share of attention from the enemy. So the single biggest consideration is your own vulnerability, keeping in mind that, without membership resource boosts, it'll take 9 minutes of gameplay to regenerate the nanites needed to pull another max suit. The second idea I want to convey is that the max suit is heavily cert-dependent. Other vehicles, like tanks and aircraft, while less powerful than their certed up equivalents, at least start with a main gun that's decent, the mobility to escape unfavorable combat situations, and the ability to get out and self-repair. A brand new max suit has none of these things. Your starting weapons are for two completely different target types, you're slower than literally everything else in the game, and you're completely dependent on a friendly engineer for your repairs. In short, a Battle Rank 1 max suit is underpowered, especially 2 years into the game where most of the infantry classes you'll face have already obtained the special tools they need to kill you more efficiently. This leads to the seemingly counterintuitive idea that in order to get your max suit up to scratch more quickly, you might need to not play it for a while. Now I know how that sounds, so consider a real fight scenario. You're a new player or even a veteran player on a new character, and you spawn into an average fight, say 20 on 20. Now you could spawn your brand new max suit, wade into battle, maybe score a kill and or an assist, but keep in mind only one of your starting weapons is designed to shoot infantry, so your time to kill is relatively high, and in the process you're likely to lose half your health or more to rifle fire or such, and that's if you don't get dropped by a rocket or C4. Now, best case, you're stuck waiting for repairs, your single weapon is unlikely to be much of a threat because you can no longer stand there and tough it out long enough to score another kill, and you're not doing much to further your faction's cause. Worst case, you take a rocket or C4 as well, which finishes you off instantly, or an anti-materiel rifle shot from the guy you just killed who's respawned and equipped it specifically to deal with you. Either way, you lose a lot of time waiting for repairs or for a new max suit, and your effectiveness and the resultant certification income is low. A better plan is, instead of a max suit, or at least between suits, play your next best infantry class, be it heavy assault, medic, engineer, or what have you, and get as many certs as you can that way, while not having to worry about keeping a relatively weak max suit alive. Along the way, pay attention to maxes that you face, which ones die quickly, which ones seem indestructible, and why. Once you have a few of your fundamental certification max components in place, you'll notice a real jump in your own effectiveness, you'll have more combat uptime, and probably more fun in the process. So what are the fundamental max components? Like so many things in Planetside 2, the answer is somewhat situational, but for max units there are nonetheless a few near universal truths. Number one is use 2 weapons of the same type. This is true whether you're talking about anti-infantry, anti-vehicular, or anti-air. One weapon simply does not bring enough firepower to drop your target. At best you'll suppress them, at worst they'll realize that you're a weak low-level max and come straight for you, probably resulting in your death. 2 weapons will greatly increase the chances that your target will die before it finds cover, shoots you with its main gun, C4s you, or whatnot. Besides unlocking all the weapons you need to have 2 anti-infantry, anti-vehicular, and anti-aircraft arms, which is admittedly a lot of certs. The other primary concern is getting nanite auto repair, at least rank 1 and hopefully higher. The single biggest limitation of max effectiveness on the battlefield, besides your damage output, is how much damage you can sustain in a period of time. If you happen to be unlucky and nobody nearby is repairing you, your 450 nanites are being wasted, either because you're sitting on the sidelines or, if you get impatient and go back into the fight wounded, because you'll likely die in combat. Having at least a slow source of auto repair makes a world of difference. After that, the decision tree branches to the point where I wouldn't want to dictate exactly what you do next, but a high percentage choice would be reducing charges cooldown, unlocking your Empire's specific ability, at least for the NC and the VS. The TR's ability, Lockdown, frankly, isn't as useful. Getting a tighter cone of fire anti-infantry weapon, each faction has them, and getting extended clips in everything, especially the NC anti-infantry weapons. The last major point I want to make in this first video is this. Maxes, no matter how well sorted, are vastly more effective when paired with an engineer. I'm not talking about twice as effective, I'm talking several times more effective. Whereas a good max player solo can engage, say, 2 or 3 people before being overwhelmed, the same max player with a good engineer buddy can change the course of entire fights between dozens of players. Even with fully certed nanite auto repair, a max requires over 60 seconds to fully regenerate from 1 hit point to full, whereas an engineer, even with a lower ranked repair tool, can do the same job in 10 seconds or less, and without the 8-second delay that nanite auto repair has after you take damage. And that's to say nothing of the ammunition replenishment considerations, which is often a limiting factor on the max's effectiveness. So if you really want to make a difference in fights, it's worth your time to seek out good engineers around you and try to work with them, both in the short and long term. You'll find that a lot of good engineers in Planetside 2 are very willing to follow, repair, and generally support a good max player who plays the long fight and doesn't just charge in and die. And if that leads to friends and teammates that you can play alongside day after day, well, that's what good multiplayer is all about. The next video in this series will cover advanced tactical ideas for enhancing your force projection, specific certification considerations, and more faction-related thoughts. If this video has been helpful and/or enjoyable, please like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more. Thank you all, and see you next time.